I'm Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and sorry I'm hesitating here. It's been a very kind of flustering day. This is the Yarn Randomizer, episode number 34, and it is the, I'm looking at my notes over there, 5th of October, 2024. Not too confused about the year. This is a knitting podcast, and pretty much just about only knitting. I wanted to say welcome to folks who've been watching, and welcome to folks who just found this, and welcome back to folks who have been watching. You can find me on Instagram as the Yarn Randomizer, pardon me, and on Ravelry as the Yarn Randomizer, and in Gmail as the Yarn Randomizer. And there's other links down below, a spread shop, and that kind of thing. And I think, oh yeah, and I have a mailing address as well down there. And real quick, why Randomizer is because I, for the most part, pick projects randomly out of my stash using these little numbered chips. So I assign everything in my stash a number, and then I just have my husband pull one of these out when I need a project to think about. And so I've been doing that for about 7 years now, which seems a little crazy, but yeah, it's worked really well to get me to use yarns that have been lingering in my stash and everything. So yeah, so the standard, please like and subscribe. That helps us get the word out on this. I'm doing what I can to reduce the glare from my window. I'm hoping it works, and so we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, we'll jump right into it. And right into it means right up front, since I had 1,000 subscribers, I have, oh, pardon me, I think it's the mohair in the room that's causing the problem. 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I had this massive pile of stash. I'll put in a picture to give away, and I'll be showing it again later as an example of something else that I've done. But the person whose name I drew was Kendra Kullberg. Kendra Kullberg 1811. So if that is you, get in touch with me through the Gmail down below, and we'll see about getting that out there. So yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so it's like, it was just kind of stunning to see it get up over 1,000, and it continues to climb. I really appreciate all the folks watching, and you know, and continuing to try to give back as well. So one of the things I'm going to be transparent about is if any kind of money comes in related to this YouTube channel, or any links below, or that kind of stuff, the idea is to accumulate it. And what I'd like to do is get to the point where I can give away gift certificates to your local yarn shop if you win, say, for a given episode. Because I'd like to do a lot to support local yarn stores and that kind of thing. But we'll see if we can build up to that otherwise. Otherwise, let's go over what I have been working on or haven't been working on. Now, I think a lot of people will realize this is what I'm wearing is my Harvey wall banger, which I finished earlier this year. I had 10 tons of weaving in of ends of this, and so finally did that using my weave in 10 a day for 2024. And so I blocked it, and it turned out just great. So you can see it all the way down. Let's see, right down there. I've got black at all the ribbing. So yeah, and it's got a reasonable amount of ease. It's very comfortable. I am super happy with this. Let's see if we can tidy that brightness up a little bit. There we go. And so I'm super happy with how it has turned out. It is just fantastic. Now, for those who don't know, on a serious note, this was made mostly, almost all of this is yarn from my mother's stash. My mom passed away last year. And so she had this left over in her stash. She bought a lot of Knit Picks yarn, and this is all wool of the Andes worsted, and she had so many shades of pink and green. And so this pattern is Harvey Wall Banger by Thea Coleman, and it's actually not written to be done this way. It's written so that these larger stripes are one color, and then the smaller stripes are 2 colors. I've done that in some spots here. And it's just it was a really quick knit, a really enjoyable knit. It's a bottom up knit in pieces and then put together, but I thought it worked out really well, and I've worn it multiple times now. I'm super happy with it. So I can't recommend the pattern enough. It is just ended up so nice. I did a couple of changes. At the bottom, it has this 1 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 1 kind of rib, which will be very difficult to see in the black yarn. But that repeat wasn't originally called for in the cuffs and the neck, but I did it up in these parts as well. And I think that's the only other change that I did. And so yeah, and again, it was a reasonably fast knit. And I think I've mentioned this to folks before. You can see the difference in sizes of the yarn overs, and that's related to when yarn overs are done between knits and purls. If it's a purl going to a knit or a knit going to a purl, your yarn over is going to be a different size. And so you can actually compensate for that by how you wrap the yarn over the needle. I didn't do that. I just worked this as called for, but if you wanted to be persnickety about that, you could be careful and see how much travel does it have from front to back and adjust your wrap accordingly. So yeah, but yeah, so that's it. So I'm wearing it, super happy with it and everything. So I have got a lot to cover in this episode, so we're going to try to get through this at a reasonable pace. Now, oh, and so yes, okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So one of the things I wanted to go over was I had finished, I finished knitting this little bird for my son, and it's looking a little wispy there. So I started adding some mohair on the chest to make it kind of an oval patch here. So I'm in process there. I did finish the beak, which I think turned out great. I realized I want to add a couple of little things. I want to knit kind of a couple little ovals or things for wings and sew those on each side. This is a toy birdie. I'm going to refer to this pattern, but I've altered it a lot, and I talk about the changes I've made in my project. But this is the toy birdie knitting pattern, and let me double check. I did not write down who the author was there. That was Elizabeth MJ, and so it's more oblong. I wanted it rounder with this kind of head poking out. And so yeah, and the other thing that I picked up, let's see if I can find one here, was the, you're gonna get to laugh about this, but I found these little 1-inch crowns, and I think I may try to provide a way to kind of hold that crown on there. Is that something else? So yeah, so it still continues, and when I really get it done with its decorations and stuff, I will give it a final show on here. But it is just really cute, and it was just really funny to find 1-inch crown. I think these are meant to be cake decorations of some kind, but they feel surprisingly sturdy. Although my first shipment of them, they were all broken in the bag, and I had to return them and get another set. So they obviously aren't metal, but they do feel sturdy. I'll provide a link below where I got those. So yeah, so that's the first finished object. Now the next finished object, you can see right back there, and that is my Hexadeagon. So let me grab that here. So let's see how well you can see it here. I'll hold it up like that. It's going to be a little tough to see without the backlighting. Let's see, let's hold it back like that. And so this was a sort of a doily or a hanging pattern, lace, and I was just using up some leftover mohair, and I regret that choice. So I worked on this, I don't know how long I worked on this. It wasn't incredibly long, I don't think. But I will say, I do not recommend doing this pattern with a mohair, a fuzzy, any kind of fuzzy yarn. This one took me, oh yeah, it took most of September to do it, but I was working on it on and off. But yeah, I thought it turned out just, it looks really great backlit. If you look at it just on its surface, like here, it just looks like a fuzzy circle, but when you hold it up, it really looks great. So you can see this little kind of spiral she's got in the middle here, and then you've got this part here going up. I have a couple of mistakes, which I decided to correct on the way. Here it is here. Can you see this one, how this is a little off kilter here? I had gotten kind of misadjusted, and so I kind of readjusted that. I figured I could live with that mistake. And on the edge somewhere, I accidentally wound through two of the openings when I should have skipped an opening here. I may try to redo that threading, but otherwise I think it turned out really great. I would really highly recommend doing this in a smooth yarn. And I did this with a size 2 needle, which was also, I think it may call for a 0 in the pattern, but I did it in size 2. But yeah, trying to work it was the center double decrease that was really difficult to do with the mohair clouding the situation. And I got these rings from their floral rings, and I got these from Amazon. I found a set, and I did an estimate of what size I would need by kind of stretching it out, pinning it out first, measuring it, and then ordering a ring of the size I thought would work. And it did work. I like the fact that it almost goes all the way to the very edge of the circle. But yeah, if you really enjoy lace knitting, I highly recommend this. I thought it was a really great pattern, and I think it looks like a great decoration in my window over here. Let's see if we get that set back up. There we go. So yeah, so I'm really happy with that. So yeah, that was an interesting knit. Don't recommend doing it in a fuzzy yarn. Try it with a smooth yarn, and I may try it again myself with a smooth yarn instead. Yeah, so I got all that. So those are my two, well, the toy bird I've talked about before, but that was my main finished object for this week. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. Sometimes I get sidetracked, like any knitter does on a new project. And so my motorcycle sweater has kind of been resting. I know what my hesitation is I have to make the tops of the pockets next. And so, you know, I've got to get myself mentally over that hurdle and do that. And then my On the Spice Market. All right, yes. Oh, and for people who don't know, this is my pegboard that I have. It's from IKEA, and it's where I like to keep a lot of my works in progress up here. Now, okay, so I made it. Now I'm in the middle of the row, and for a good reason, actually. But I wanted to show I made it through a few more colors. Let's see, in my On the Spice Market. Now this is a pattern by Melanie Berg. And so you can see it started with solid stripes of each color. Now I'm working through in the reverse order in these. If you can see these, they're the star stitches. And I got all the way up into the 4th color, and I was working on this 4th color when tragedy ensued. I saw something that I had missed. Let's see if I can, am I gonna not see it here? Let's see. Oh, this was not a mistake that was in my imagination. There it is right there. Okay. So as I was working on this, I noticed, let's see if you can see this. Oh yes, you can see there's a strand of the color going across the front instead of across the back for that, where it was supposed to be held to the back. And so I'm looking at that, and I know one of the things I could do is I could take a strand of black and go kind of duplicate stitch over that so it's covered up. I could even potentially weave it in and cut, you know, the ends so that it looks kind of seamless. But I'm toying with the idea of seeing if there's a way for me to pick down to this location. If I don't have to go through one of these other stars, can I pick down to that location and relocate where that strand is? If I can do that, because I'm reluctant to take back or rip back those rows, but I'll have to decide what I want to do. Hi, Odo. Hey. let's see. So yeah, so that's what I noticed. It kind of brought me to a halt, but I did make some good progress on there. And I'm really enjoying knitting this pattern. It's a really great pattern. And it's, most of it, I mean, most rows you're just doing knits. It's on a single row for each one of these color things where you're doing this star stitch, which adds a little complexity, but it turns out really nice. And so if I am able to do a pick down and repair, I'll record that and put a video up in my fixing my knits, a selection of videos and stuff. So we'll see. I've just, you know, when you see something like that and you know you have to fix it, you have to kind of take your breath with a project and then come back to it. But I really am enjoying knitting this project. All right, and just so you see it, I'm keeping it in this Stolen Minutes bag. That's an Ohio bag maker that I highly recommend. I'll link that below. And yeah, so that's where I'm at with that project. Now, let's see. Oh, the next one is the big project. Let me set this down over here. Is my blanket, my year-long Slipstravaganza blanket that I've been working on. And so I do approximately, I think, 542 stitches a day or something along those lines. And I still have the rest of the year to do that many stitches a day. At this point, each row is over 1,600 stitches long. And so this is just about to the point where it's easiest just to show you a section. So I'm getting close to being halfway through this outer chevrons area. So the triangle's there, and here's the chevrons in white, pink, and now I'm working on one in the cherry. So I'm almost halfway through the chevrons, but the chevrons, there'll be another repeat of the white, pink, and cherry after this, and that's going to take all the way up until the last week of December. So this last part of this whole chevrons area with over 1,600 stitches per month is going to take from, I think it was it the end of July? Sometime, it's almost the last 5 months of the year to do these outer areas. So it is going along. It is getting huge, but it's hard to really show its length because it's really kind of pulled in. The outer part is so long that it is difficult to show now. I'll have to attach either more cords just for the purpose of showing it off, or just keep dealing with the fact that I just show a little of it. The other thing I wanted to show was, as I've been working on weaving in 10 ends a day on my projects, I actually did that on this project. Let's see if I can get to where the beginning of a round is. That's somewhere in here. Let's see. Well, basically it's becoming hard to find because I actually worked on and wove in, here we go, just about all the ends on the back of this project. So there were a ton of ends on each these cherry colored triangles. There were 2 ends, and then there were ends all along here. I've woven all of those in but 2 here, these 2 ends, because I need to kind of snug up this area here a little bit. It's gotten a little loose, and so I'm going to make sure before I weave these in that this area is in a good state. But otherwise, there we go, you can see this has been just growing and growing, and I can't wait until I can really spread it out. But it's going to be a huge blanket. It'll definitely fit on the full-size bed for sure. 86.5 inches is the end kind of measurement and diameter that it's supposed to have. So it's getting to be quite the beast. And so that continues, and I've been keeping on track with that. And for next year, I am doing Stephen West's, I think it's the Bubbly, what is it called? Bubbly Blossoms blanket. So I've got yarn and plans to do the Bubbly Blossoms blanket through the course of the year. So I am going to, before it hits December, I'm going to make a spreadsheet and figure out how many stitches a day I need to do on that to get that one done through the course of next year. So we'll see how that kind of lines up. I hope it's a similar amount of stitches as this, but we'll see. All right, so that is the Slipstravaganza. Now, let's see, and that's knitted in Lancava Maineo from Finished Knits. And I specifically bought that yarn because it was a good price. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon, but it's less than $10 a skein. So it was, you need 16 to 17 skeins to do this blanket. And that was going to break the bank if it was a hand-dyed, like fancy dancy custom color yarn. So, and the colors you saw, they turned out great. So I always like to mention that I do these blankets with a more economical choice for yarn. All right, so my cobblestone sweater has been kind of sitting in limbo as well. I think, oh yeah, it's all the way over there. I have to start the sleeves, and again, it's one of those kind of mental hurdles I need to get over, but I'll probably get those started this week. And part of the reason why things have been neglected was I needed a small project, and when I picked up a small project to do, I kind of got a little obsessed. So the first one is, this is, again, I should be telling you what Yarn Randomizer Projects is. This one's the 22nd Yarn Randomizer Project for 2024. And this bag actually is from the Bearded Purl. I think, yeah, he's not making podcasts anymore, but he's got a great library of podcasts. And he made these really nice quilted bags, and this is one of my favorites. But in here is my 22nd Yarn Randomizer project for this year, and this is my little lace scarf by Lisa Haynes. Okay, so let me set this down here. I'm just over halfway. Let's see how well I can show this. So, see. So right now, it's one of these longer, narrower affairs, and it's an extremely repeatable pattern. Let's see the best way to show this. And so it's basically got some twisted stitches going up. It's got a kind of purl two, and these two knits here, you keep alternating with a yarn over and kind of slip, slip, knit, or knit two together. And at the edge, there's a little bit of garter and an I-cord edge. And I think it is turning out just lovely and fun to knit. The pattern is just absolutely memorizable. And you can see with more than half used, it's a reasonable length, so it'll be twice this length. But yeah, I don't know if you can get a good idea. Let me try to put my face behind here. But yeah, so I think it turned out great. And so I have been kind of obsessed because this was such an easy knit. I ended up carrying it around a lot and working on it a lot. I've got a marker here, a stitch marker for when I started on this middle section where I'm not doing any increases or decreases. I used about 40 grams on the increases. I'm going to use the probably 15 grams in the middle, and then I'll use the rest to finish it off with a little bit left over. And this is Yarnable, Hypnotic Yarns Yarnable. This was her, that's the Apple Crisp colorway, and I think it looks really nice. So yeah, that has been turning out well, and it's just such an easy pattern and so portable that I've been a little bit kind of, you know, you start it and you just go, you just kind of dig into it, and it has been fun. One of the nice thing was I can put a link down to where these yarn cozies are. But these yarn cozies, they look so small, but they totally fit on a full-size skein of yarn. And so you can see how it's holding it together really nicely as I'm working my way through the skein. These are by Buffy Ann Designs. These are her little yarn cozies, and they're so nice. All right, so that's that project. Oh, again, I think there's mohair in the air here. Now the next one that I picked up and have been having trouble putting down is I also dipped down in for another project, and this I can't blame on anything else but just wanting to get something new and smaller on the needles again. And so this is the Oslo Hat by Petite Knit, And I've already finished. I've got it folded over and connected. Let's see if you can see. You can see there how this has been put together. And then now I'm doing these, there's a set you do 3/4 of an inch, and then this will get turned. And I'll turn this right now so you can see. It'll get turned inside out, and you start knitting on the opposite side. So you'll have this folded, this double brim here. You'll have some purl rows, enough for 3/4 of an inch, and then you start doing the stockinette up for another 5 inches, and then start doing the decreases, and then this will fold, see, fold over and kind of hide where those pearls are. But this is knit in Madeline Tosh Farm Twist, and this colorway is Get Up and Dance. Now I don't know if they make Farm Twist anymore, but it's really nice, and I think this was a colorway that went with one of their blankets several years ago, their annual blankets. And so this has been a really fun to knit pattern. I love how sturdy this double brim feels. And of course it folds up, so it'll be 3 layers where it's on your head. And so yeah, and this one I expect to finish with it within the week. And so this will be a finished object for next time. And so this was Yarn Randomizer Pick 23 for the year. But yeah, look how nicely, it's like avoiding heavy pooling and just getting little splotches of color all over. I'll be curious to see how well it behaves when it gets up to the decreases, because that's where you start getting differences in how things line up. It might be worth the trouble of taking the other end of the yarn and knitting those decrease rows helically in order to work against any kind of pooling that might try to happen, but we'll see when we get there. So yeah, and I did not just cast on with this, I did a provisional crochet cast on with this so that I would have the stitches available to work together once I folded this in half. And I think that's might be a little easier than just trying to pick up a stitch through a cast on edge, but your mileage might vary. So yeah, so that is progressing along very nicely. My husband was really excited about how this hat looks and feels. He'd want to pick a different color, and so I told him he could look through my yarn in my stash and see if he sees a color he'd like. But yeah, so that's that, and that's all the works in progress, I believe. Yep, that's it. And I can see making this pattern multiple times for sure. All right, now my other daily task of weaving in ends. Of course, it got me this sweater finished, excuse me. And I wanted to see, oh yes, so finished and blocked this. I also wove in the ends on my Ravello. So I had some ends left over, and I had some tidying up of ends to do. Let's see, oh yeah, on the back. And so there's places here where I was changing color on the back that were a little bit rough before, and I tidied them up a bit. It doesn't look too bad. And otherwise, this thing has all the ends woven in, and it's fully blocked and ready to rumble. Might wear it for the next episode. Let's see if we do this. There we go. But this is using some Mandy's Making and some Lorna's Laces yarns, and all the details are on my project page. But I'm really happy with the Weave In 10 effort. Has really been paying off on getting projects really ready to go. Hi, Odo. Now, let's see, the other one that I touched. Oh, yeah, so I wove in all the ends I could practically on my blanket. And here's the funniest thing. So, as the weather's been getting cooler, I've been wearing some of my socks. And so, actually, I should have had a sock form for this so you can see it. But I have a pair of socks that I knit, I believe it was last year, late last year. And the name of these socks is Les Chaussettes de la Stravaganza. I don't know how to say that. So it's a French, this was a French pattern, and it was in French. I didn't realize it didn't have an English translation, but I liked it so much I wanted to do it. And so this is with some coloring book yarn, vintage holiday, something like that. And there's not much remarkable. It's almost vanilla, but let me show you the detail on the back that made these special. And that was this really lovely, here we go, cable up the back. Well, so I go to put these socks on and wear them, and I'm like, what is that? and I turn this one sock inside out. Now understand, I've worn and washed these a few times, and this is really kind of ridiculous. I have some ends that were, you can see they're a little fuzzed up, and even worse, look down here at the toe, this mess. And so apparently I wove in the ends on one sock and didn't do the other. So this is getting added to my list of weave in 10 and to get that done. Could not believe I left those like that. All right, so that's kind of funny. So I've got some more projects I will be working on with the weave in 10. I'm kind of amazed that I realize I've done it for all of August and all of September. So each of those months, more than 300, so more than 600 ends woven in. And I still have a lot to go sitting over there. Oh my goodness. So will be really interesting to see if I get done by the end of the year with all the weaving in that I need to do. Now, acquisitions. Oh, I think I do not have that one acquisition here. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of where it is at. Okay, I'll skip that until next time. It's a bag that I want to show, but I will grab it for the next episode. So outside of that, now let me see about grabbing this and pushing some of this stuff out of the way. All right. Now I mentioned this on Instagram. So I have a Advent coming. It is Twice Sheared Sheep's Advent for this year, and that's the only one I'll be having come in. But so that my husband can also participate in Advents, I get him an Advent too, and I get him one from a tool manufacturer. Let's see if we can see, where is the name of the tool? Do they have their name? Oh yes, there it is right here. There it is, Vera Tools. It's a German tool manufacturer, and they have a neat Advent calendar each year for their tools. And I've been doing these, I think, about 4 years for my husband. And to give you an example of what these things look like when they're done, here's one, or part of one from 1 year. And so it comes with this carrier. Oh, I apologize about the noise. Okay, and you can see this one. This one is a set of bits and some drivers there. And he loves these. He absolutely loves these sets. So that way we have something to share each day when we open up something for Advent. So I'm not just the only one opening things up. He has his cool tools. And I usually put pictures on my Advent project. I've always put pictures of his stuff that he's opened up every day as well. All right, so that's one thing I got. Now, let's see, where is it? Oh, right there. Let's put this here. So I made the mistake of wandering through people's stashes and seeing what they had for sale. And somebody had some Knit Picks High Desert Sport Weight in Sugar Beet Heather for sale. And they had 13 skeins of it. And they had it for a good price, a little bit less than what it's available for on Knit Picks. And so I fell in love with this purple, and I have an idea. Andrew Mowry's Traveler, I think, would look great in this yarn. So I picked it up, and I've got it, just got it today. And again, I got a lot of wrangling to do with straightening out my stash, and I will work up to that once I've dealt with giving away this big amount of stuff to, who was it again? to Kendra Culbert. So next episode we'll have a big getting it all wrangled out, and I will definitely have something else to give away next time So I do that about every other episode, have something to give away. So there'll definitely be something for next episode. But yeah, so I got 13 skeins of this. The other ones are in the other room. But just an incredible purple heather. Just great. If you didn't guess, my favorite color is purple. Now, the other thing that happened was I have been wearing more of my hand knit socks lately as it's gotten colder, and I wore a pair of my socks that I made from Croy sock yarn. If you haven't use Croy socks. It's a very kind of sturdy, almost more sport weight. It's fingering, but it feels a little more sporty. And it's just a great sock yarn. So I was wearing these socks this week, and it just reminded me of how lovely and how much I've enjoyed knitting Croy yarn. And it's a more reasonably priced sock yarn. If you're curious, this is the mock cable socks by Wendy Johnson, and they are just just fantastic. I think you can see those mock cables there. So I went to my favorite place that sells Croy sock yarn, and that is, I think I can't remember the name. It's an Etsy shop, yarn shop for you. Hold on for a second. I will find that for you. Now, let's see. Here it is. I just want to, I believe it is, I think it, oh yes, there it is. Yarn Shop number 4U, Yarn Shop 4U. They have an Etsy shop, and they have, I think, every color that Croy makes, and they have a good price, and they have multi-packs as well there. And so I enjoyed wearing these socks so much. I don't have any more full skeins of Croy in my stash, and I wanted to get some back in there. So I got two, let's bring these over here. I got two colors that I wanted to work with. So the first one is this set. So this, the self-striping colorway is Mid-Century Stripes. And I really like that. And I decided to pick up this saltwater, this blue color in Croy. So I'm going to be putting those together when they go into the randomizer, and they'll get picked when they get picked. But I did want to have some available. And then the other one that I picked up was, let's see, this colorway. Oh, here it is, here. Mexicali stripes. And oh, I really loved those colors. And I picked some, I believe it's coal, to do the heels and toes and stuff with that. So Mexicali stripes. Now I made my husband a hat band out of some Mexicali stripes. So I have some extra of that, but I needed 2 full skeins to be able to make a pair of socks, and these would definitely be for my husband. He loves these colors. But yeah, so I wanted to get some Croy back into my stash where I would have an opportunity to make socks if it came up. And so again, Yarn Shop for You, I'll link that below, but they have just a great selection of Croy at a great price. Now, let's see, acquisitions. Oh, okay. And so the only other thing I got was, I've been working on kind of improving storage for my yarn. I keep a lot of my yarn in Ziploc bags, stored in containers. I think I've shared a picture of that at some point. But I wanted to look at vacuum packing of stuff. So I bought a vacuum pack kit that had a bunch of different sizes of bags. Now, let's see. And I wanted to see how it would work out. So, remember all those yarns that were in that basket that I was going to give away? Well, here they all are. Kendra. And I tried it out with this vacuum packing, and I wanted to see, when I vacuum packed, would it stay? You know, how well does it stay and everything? And I'll tell you right now, it hasn't got, no air has gotten in there beyond what I pumped out. And it worked great. This was a set from Amazon. I'll link below. It was pretty reasonably priced. You can't use a hand, I think you can use a vacuum cleaner to pump these out, but I just used this little hand pump that came with it. And so I think I'm going to try to pack up some of my yarn that I have stored over there in this way, because these are definitely heavier. I don't think these bags can be penetrated in the same way that some plastic bags can that you store yarn in. So there's an example of that in action. So yeah, woo, let me set this down here. And oh my goodness, how long have we been going? 40 minutes, not too bad. All right, so I still need to balance my stash. So I will do that next time, and I'll come up with something else I'll want to give away. Whether I need to balance my stash or not, I will come up with a skein of yarn out of my stash for a giveaway next time. And finally, the thing you've been waiting all episode for, Yarn Randomizer Pick. Well, if you watch the short, you will see that pick number 27 for this year was this Madeline Tosh. And this is TML, Tosh Merino Light Lights. And you may not be able to see it, but there is some stellina in there, and it is not just regular stellina, it is rainbow colored stellina. Let's see if I hold that up a little closer. Yeah, you can probably see that a little. And this color is called Blinkin' Beacon, and that's what got picked when my husband pulled out a number. This came in a set, and that set was Blinkin' Beacon, Grinch, and Caroling. This one. And so they all have the same sparkle in there. And this was meant for a suburban wrap by Hohilo Catali. I'll provide a link of that below. But that's not what I'm going to do with this. Now, so I had these three sitting in my stash and no particular plans for them. So I'll set these down for a moment. Now, for 2023, Jimmy Bean's Wool had a craft bent that had a whole bunch of Tosh Merino Light in some of the same colors. So the Grinch color, the green, the Grinch, and the Blinkin' Beacon, and a whole bunch of other Christmassy colors of Tosh Merino Light. So you can see there is the red, there's this really neat kind of peppermint looking color, there is a darker green, more evergreen kind of green. So just a whole bunch of Christmassy colors. The point of these was to make little holiday decorations. Well, I had done that with the craft vent kit from the year before, and I really wasn't interested in doing that again. And so I saved these up. And so the nice thing is they kind of go, or they actually do go with these pretty well. So I think you can see that. So that'll all go together. And what I plan to make, if I get down to this pick in my picks this year, is a Cory in poncho. And that's a pattern, Selma from Little Big Knits made one. And when I saw her wearing hers, I thought it looked great. And when I thought about this and these yarns, I could use these double to do that DK pattern, and I could find a way to arrange the colors through the poncho to have a really nice kind of a Christmassy kind of poncho to wear. So that's my plan. And so that will go into my queue. These three full skeins and this whole set of minis will all go together to become a poncho. So we'll see how that goes. I'll put a picture of the poncho in there. And so that is the random pick number 27. I think I got up to like 30 picks last year, but this year's been a little tricky. I picked some really large quantities of yarn, and I'm not making my way through my randomizer picks as quickly. If I get to the end of the year, I never get through everything that I've picked each year, but usually it's just a few. But whatever the case, when I get to the end of the year, what happens is I will reboot my randomizer, kind of re-export my stash, renumber everything, kind of set that all up, and I'll delete anything that's in my queue that was not started. So all the stuff will be deleted out of my queue, and we'll start fresh again for next year. So I'm kind of motivated to get to some of these. I'd love to make them, but I don't know if I can get through everything I've got lined up. But we'll see. And anyway, it'll still be fun one way or the other. All right, so finally, looking through. So videos, looking at my notes over here. I picked out a pattern, the Swallowtail Shawl. It's a free pattern, and I'm going to go through the exercise of making a spreadsheet, how to make a spreadsheet for that pattern. And I'm also going to show how you take the original pattern, make the spreadsheet for it, and then we'll make a couple of we'll copy that spreadsheet on other pages and make alternative versions where we do more repeats of the different laces that are in there. And you can get a feel for how you, once you start working it, get an estimate for how big you can make a shawl given the stash that you have, and go through that process. So we'll do that. So that one will be a little more advanced. The first one was super basic. This will start walking you through that process of how do you scale up a pattern. And we'll talk about yarn overs and that kind of thing, because yarn overs, I think, are one of the biggest variables in how much yarn a pattern uses. I think there's a lot of variance in how much yarn people have in yarn overs. And in general, that's where I've seen folks have problems in kits that have a fixed amount of yarn. The thing that can throw things way off, I think, is the yarn overs in those, or if you're not meeting gauge, one of the two. So I picked out that pattern. I'll link it below so you can get a look at it. It's free, and so you can download it. This way you can walk through the process with me when I do it. My repair on the Spice Market shawl. I also want to do some Ravelry tips about shopping or about how you explore patterns for a yarn. Now that I've got a setup for recording on the computer, I'll do more of that. My microphone for working with the computer got delayed, so I haven't recorded that yet. And then finally, I still promising I gotta write a script for my Make One Variations video and I think I need to start making that in pieces and then assemble the whole thing, because that's gonna be a little involved. So yeah, that's everything. I'll be doing one more podcast before I go to Knitting New Mexico to the Knit One Hike 2 at Ghost Ranch in late October. And my husband and I are going out there for a week ahead of time to do some exploring of national monuments and such. But otherwise, things are going great. It's really starting to feel like sweater weather here. And oh, and you won't believe it, my husband actually brought up Rhinebeck because he wants to do a tour up through New England, and he says, well, how would you feel about stopping at Rhinebeck? I'm like, are you kidding me? So I don't know that may happen this year, because it's too close to the Knitting New Mexico stuff, so it probably won't happen this year. Next year, Knitting New Mexico is in November, so I might have a better shot of doing Rhinebeck next year. But I thought that was awesome that he brought that up. So, but yeah, otherwise, I hope you're experiencing lots of kindness and giving lots of kindness in your life, and you're taking good care of yourself. And in the meantime, enjoy your knits.